got a
Yeah.
bunch that's a little bit different.
It's Tuesday, April 16th in the United States, and yesterday I had a chance of a lifetime to run a bucket list race as I finished the Boston Marathon. And what made this a race of a lifetime, something that I've been looking forward to really all of my life, is the incredible athletes that I had a chance to run with. And one of them is a guy that I have the utmost respect for. Anthony Lee was in the military. I've got great respect for what he did as a U.S. Air Force pararescue jumper. But not only that, his accomplishments as a marathoner, ultra marathoner, a triathlete are legendary. And now he's attempting something that literally only 25, 30 people on the planet will attempt this year. And I'm going to let Anthony tell you all about it on this episode of Unbeatable.
These stories of triumph over adversity will help you handle your toughest days in life and become unbeatable.
Anthony, man, it is great to talk to you, coming to us from across the pond in London tonight. Thanks for being a guest on this episode of Unbeatable, buddy.
Yeah, man, it's great to be with you. Yesterday was an amazing day, blessed day with you and the whole team in Boston. And as you said, I am now in London, getting ready to partake of the London Marathon. So, yeah.
I gotta explain this to people because this is gonna blow your mind if you're watching this or listening right now. Anthony is attempting the world's majors. Yesterday, he and I were in Boston together running the Boston Marathon. Anthony, I'm wearing the shirt just to represent, man. And I see you got not only the jacket, but you've got the medal on tonight. Almost 24 hours ago, April 15th, you and I were running the Boston Marathon. It's now Tuesday evening in the US. I'm back in the studio in Columbus, Georgia, and you are in London just a couple of days away from another major marathon. Are you crazy, man? Why on earth would anybody run 2 marathons in 5 days?
Yeah, this is definitely a experience I've never experienced before because the turnaround is so fast. And this is just part of, as you talked about, the World Marathon Majors, doing 6 of the world's biggest and best marathons all in 1 year. So this is part of it.
We're going to nerd out on running because I love running like you do, man. I love the marathon and the lore of the marathon like you do, but I don't have a fraction of the marathon experience you do. But we're going to give the audience a little bit of information about the marathon and what makes this thing so awesome. So, Anthony, when did you start getting hooked in running?
Yeah, I would say I got hooked in running when I was a kid, growing up in Ohio. I started running cross country. I ran my first marathon when I was 14 years old at the Columbus Marathon.
No way.
In Ohio. Yeah, I was 14. 14. And that was my first one. I was like, wow, this is awesome. So, and I just kept running. You know, I wasn't supposed, the coaches didn't want me to go run a marathon at the age of 14, but I was like, I can do this. And I did it. It took me like 4 hours, but I did it, so it was good. That's when I started.
A lot of people are listening to that right now saying, are you kidding me? I couldn't run a marathon today in twice that time. I'm not a medical doctor. There's probably some doctor out there that's pulling his hair out right now thinking, if you're 14 years old, it might be a little bit early to start your marathon career, because yesterday there was a kid running Boston on his 18th birthday, the youngest guy in the marathon. Just hit 18. And of course, you have to be 18 to run Boston. And he turned 18 on the day of the race. So he was running on his 18th birthday.
Wow, that's extraordinary.
You've been
yesterday was hard. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to get into Boston yesterday. And man, it tore me up like it did you. We were messaging each other on the plane last night. But you've been running for a long time, man. You are a very, very accomplished runner. You're actually a guy that I look up to. So let's talk about some of your marathon experience.
Yeah, so marathon, I have 250 plus marathons now under my belt, ultras. done 17 Ironman triathlons. After I entered the military, it was, triathlons, running, marathons. And yeah, I just wanted to do, first it was like, I wanted to do all 50 marathons in 50 states. And then I wanted to do sub 3 in 50 states, so it just kept going. And it's just, you get addicted to it. And so during my heyday, I would find marathons just like every other weekend or every weekend sometimes, small ones, not like the majors, small ones to go do for training, just because they're so much fun. So that's when I was younger. Now, not so much, but now since I turned 50, I made this my goal when I turned 50 to do 6 in a year, and I can tell that I'm 50 doing it again. It's a little different.
Yeah,
now.
man. Yeah. Okay. For all the listeners who are driving right now and listening to this episode, you just heard him correctly. More than 250 marathons. He just said 17 Ironmans. And you also heard him say that he did it marathons just for training, where most people spend a year or two preparing for a marathon, and then they lay on the couch for 6 months after the marathon asking themselves, why did I do that to myself? Let's talk a little bit about your military career, because man, I got mad respect for you. I do this for all of my guests, man. Thank you for what you've done for our country, Anthony. But you spent a long time in the U.S. military. So let's get into why you joined, what you did.
Okay. Yeah. And you too, Jeff. Thank you for what you did. Your listeners probably know your story, but it's pretty amazing. So thank you also. So I joined the Air Force out of high school. I was a runner, and, I grew up, pretty poor in a poor town, but I ran, so I was going to be able to go to college. But I had a child. I had a child in high school on my 18th, not my 18th birthday, my graduation day of my oldest daughter. So I couldn't go to the service academies. I couldn't go to West Point or the Air Force Academy. So I decided just to join. That was right before Desert Storm. So I joined, right there as Desert Storm was happening. Got to partake in that. Got to do the pararescue indoctrination course, Halo School, as you got to go, the whole pipeline. Got to do all that fun stuff. And I think a lot of, growing up in the military, 22 years in the military, especially those early years, I was trying to go to WCAP for the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. So it was a lot of training, a lot of working. And then I got accepted to the Airmen's Education and Commissioning Program in the Air Force. So I was able to take 2 years off and just go to college full time and work out and train and still run track, run cross country. So, that was cool. I was a little bit, I was in my mid-20s at that time, so a little bit older than the college kids, but I want to say I was a little more mature. I had a little more stamina than them. And some of the
yeah, you did
some of the things, right? So 22 years in, on the service team. So I was transferred from after I got back from deployment in 2005. I did a lot of deployments as an Air Force guy, and so I went up to be an aide in the Army, to the Army Chief of Staff in 2005. So I switched from the Air Force to the Army, which is a little different than most people do.
Yeah,
but I spent the rest just a little. So I spent the rest of my time up at the Pentagon, serving on the Army staff and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and finished my career as a foreign military sales officer. So it was definitely fun, and I got to spend a lot of time training in the Pentagon.
Yeah. Okay, fun fact. I have never stepped foot inside the Pentagon in my life. Been invited to go up there a bunch of times, and for whatever reason, it's never worked out. And I just decided I'm going to make this a personal goal. I'm going to try to go to the rest of my life and never step foot inside the Pentagon. Although almost everybody that I know eventually made it to work up there. So, man, I'm mad respect for your entire career. And you're probably the only guy I know that went from the Air Force to the Army. If anybody switches branches, it's always the other way around, right? Like the Army, this stuff sucks. I'm going to the Air Force where they have better food, better places to live, better quality of life, and they all go the other direction.
Yeah, it was different for me, and I think the main factor is that I spent the entire time at the Pentagon. I was never stationed at an Army base. Except for Command General Staff College. That was it. But that was school. So was it?
Okay, so let's talk about the PJs. I don't know if you're aware of this, Anthony, but I really believe of all of the special operations forces out there, the hardest pipeline to pass is the Air Force PJs. Like everybody has their own skills, everybody takes their own, it takes a certain set of criteria to make it through them. But that initial pipeline, man, I don't know anybody who has it worse than the PJs. And I've said to countless people, even my own sons, if you were thinking about joining the military and you really wanted the ultimate challenge, go be an Air Force PJ. I don't know anybody who does medical better than the PJs do. I don't know anybody who's tougher and survives their pipeline like the PJs. So I cannot think of a battlefield that I was on that I didn't have a PJ right next to me. And I'd rather have a PJ than a trauma surgeon from a major, hospital in the United States next to me.
100%, 100%. And thank you for that. Yes, I think that's that pipeline, making it through that pipeline, as you said, is very hard. The initial two schools, our NDOC
Brutal.
and combat dive, just brutal. I mean,
Brutal.
you can go up to the pictures at Laughlin and see classes of two back in our, like, graduating classes of two. There's one picture.
People graduated.
Two people. Yeah. There's one in there where there's just one guy standing there, just one person.
Wow.
That's how hard it was. They call it Superman School for a reason, and that's why I have a little Superman tattoo on my hip, because it was hard, and it provided not only the mental fortitude to be able to do what I'm doing now, but I think for the rest of my career, because I always knew that no matter what, like, I did that, I can do anything. And that they make us, in your service school, so they make it so we feel that way. If we can pass that, we can do anything, no matter what it is.
It's definitely true of the PJs. For the listener out there, when you have a course that is willing to only graduate 2 people or only graduate 1 people out of a huge starting class, it tells you we will not compromise on the standards. Either you can pass this grueling course or you can't. And if you can't, there will be only one guy standing at the finish line. And if that's all that's standing at the finish line, that's all that's standing. But I just want the listener to know, man, it is that hard. And I have that kind of respect for the PJs. We've done some episodes in the past with a PJ or 2, but for people who haven't heard those episodes, PJ stands for Pararescue Jumper, but that's not really, the title is a little bit, it's not misleading, but it's not the whole picture. So can you describe for people who have no context about the military, what is an Air Force PJ?
Yeah, an Air Force PJ, the name comes back from when we were in Vietnam, jumping out of helicopters, doing that and jumping. But we are the combat medics on all the teams. So all the combined teams, any teams out there, anybody that's going in, the primary medics on the team are always the PJs, because, as Jeff said, we've been a special, not only paramedic school, but we have some extra special stuff for combat trauma that we can do out there and get you out. And not only that, but then we're trained to fight. So that way, if we have to go in and get somebody, pass them all up, and we can get them all out of there. And that goes for our enemies too. So as we're going in there, if they get hurt and we need to get intel or whatever, we will fix them to keep them alive too, to do what we need to do. So, we are the main point of contact as your medic on the battlefield, and we can fight along with you, unlike other medics.
If you're familiar with the movie Black Hawk Down, for the listeners out there, that when that small crew goes in at the first crash site, you hear the actors talking about Wilkie. And Wilkie is, of course, Tim Wilkerson, who was an Air Force PJ, a very, very senior PJ, and one of the first guys on the ground when helicopters started getting shot down, trying to patch up pilots and trying to keep them alive. And like I said, I cannot remember a battlefield that I didn't have a PJ around me. And it made me feel like, well, if I take one in the chest, if I have any chance of surviving, it'll be because there was a PJ close by. So mad respect for the PJs. Your career didn't end up the way you hoped it would because of a jump injury. So what
Yes.
happened on
Oh
a
yeah.
free fall jump that radically changed your career?
Yeah. So as you know, so I was coming down, my foot, and I was still almost like in swoop. So my canopy. People can see my hands. If you say my canopy, instead of being above my head, was in front of my head, right? And I'm still coming down because I'm trying to get a little more motion here. But I was coming down. We didn't see where we were at, and my ankle caught this piece of cement and grass I didn't see. So my canopy drove me into this piece of cement. So what happened was severed my ankle, severed my patella tendon, broke my back, my neck, bounced off that piece of concrete about 20 feet, woke up in an ambulance. Like I didn't even know, my guardian angel was there. I shouldn't even probably be alive. But that did change everything because now, like when you look at my leg, my right leg, where your patella tendon should be, you see a big dimple and a scar. I don't really have one. So it's when I'm out here doing this stuff, if I don't work out and I don't run and I don't stay in shape, my body hurts. So it's kind of therapeutic for me to
Yeah.
keep doing what I'm doing. Maybe not to this extent, 2 marathons in 5, 6 days, but still I keep out there doing this.
Right. Okay.
So
So
that was, yeah, go ahead.
no, when did this happen? When did this
That
parachute injury happen?
that happened in 2005, right before I went over to the Army.
Okay.
That was part of the reason I did too, because I could probably still have gotten through and it's still employed, but probably not to the level I needed to be.
So the lifestyle of a PJ is grueling. Just the training process is grueling, but it doesn't let up when you get assigned to a unit, and it's nonstop grueling. And honestly, doing the job day in and day out is probably far more physically demanding over time than just passing the course. And like you, I've been on a whole bunch of military freefall jumps, a lot of skydives, and the military has a way of ruining every great experience. So even
Right.
skydiving is no fun in the military. But I've been able to, now I've landed really, really hard a time or two, but I've been able to get up and walk away from every landing. I just made a mental note of all of the injuries you sustained from this one parachute landing that really fundamentally altered your career. But I need you to say this again, because when you start to consider the injuries that Anthony has been through and what he's physically doing today, it's mind boggling. So tell everybody again, not just the injuries, but the recovery process after that parachute injury.
Yeah, so I severed my ankle, my right ankle. There was 3 surgeries on my right ankle to get that repaired and fixed. And then my right patella tendon was gone. They tried to bring stuff together, so there's some stuff there, but not a lot. That was 7 surgeries, 7 or 8 surgeries. And then my neck and back, those were just put in place. Those still have yet to have pass on surgery on that, because once I do that, then I'm really so now I just deal with that back pain, pretty much. And then, I forgot because I tried to pull up so hard, I had four
Yeah.
holes in my hand here. Those are healed up, so you just see the scars. So you could see my bones when I was moving because I did that. So the recovery, like I said, all those surgeries, the rehab, that took about 10 months, 11 months, and that
Oh
was
my
just to
goodness,
get out of
man.
surgeries and hospitals. Yeah.
Oh, did the
Yeah.
doctors ever tell you, hey man, an ankle injury like this, patella, a knee injury like this, that's the end of your running career, let alone the
Oh,
back
they
and the
did. The
neck.
the the surgeon, yeah, the surgeon was like, "You're not running ever again," like that, and my neck, they were like, "You're not going to be carrying rucks and stuff again," like so. I did
And
all of it.
for anybody like me or like you, and a long run on a Saturday morning is my happy place. If a doctor were to look me in the eyes and say, Jeff, you'll never run again, I would probably just say, just go ahead and shoot me. If you're telling me that I can never ever run again, then I don't know how I'm going to adapt to life after that. And man, the kind of injuries that you sustained, those are legit. You probably will never run again injuries back in 2005. And here you are many marathons later. Like, dude, you're a testament to just enduring, persevering through obstacles and through a whole lot of pain.
For sure. Yeah. Yes, I can take the pain. It's, you just got to know that it's going to stop at some point. So, it's going to suck. It's going to end. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
It's going to suck. It's going to end, you know.
You finish out your career in the Pentagon, and you have a chance to train hard while you're in the Pentagon and basically get back into marathon shape. But at some point, for all of us, a career in the military ends, and you transition really, really well, man. Leaving the military, starting a company that becomes very successful. Where did Zapp Mortgage come from? Like, how did this thing get started?
Yeah. So, you know, when I got out, I didn't want anything to do with the military. I didn't want to, or the military, the department. Being in the Pentagon for so many years in Washington, D.C., kind of sours you on a lot of stuff. So I just wanted nothing to do with that. So at first I went back to school because I wanted to be a sports psychologist. I was going to get my PsyD in sports psychology, right?
All right.
So I was doing that and was going through and I was like, the last part is just these clinicals. I'm getting bored. So I was like, I'm watching Property Brothers. I said, I can do real estate mortgages. So I got started doing that. And I didn't know anything about it. So everybody out there, you don't have to know anything about what you want to pursue. You just kind of got to go for it. And I went all in, just like I did being a PJ, just like I do with all 6 of these races in 1 year.
Yeah.
I just went all in.
Yeah.
And I would work 16, 20 hours a day. In my first quarter, I made like $200 and some $1,000. And I'd never made that, military salaries. I've never made that much money.
A little bit bigger than a military paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, I could go be a sports psychologist for $80,000 a year, really enjoy my life and be in sports, or I really enjoy this and I'm actually really good at it. So let's just do that. So then I started that. And as we kept going, I'm very philanthropic. I like to give back. We give back to the community and stuff like that is part of what we do. And when I started this company, it was after I'd already been successful with just me and my own team. And I said, hey, I could do way more if I started a company or was in multiple states doing exactly what I was doing in one state. How can I scale this, make it big so we can give back even more to the community? So that's how that started. And yeah, started from nothing. And we are now, hopefully this year will be in top 100 of the 85,000 top 100 privately owned companies. We are a top 20 veteran-owned company in the whole United States. So out of all of them. So yeah, everything it's possible. You just put your mind to it.
Man, what an incredible story. This is for everyone out there. Like, Anthony didn't have all of the experience. He didn't have the playbook. He just found something that he enjoyed and that he was good at it, started pouring a lot of sweat into it. And then you just heard, man, this thing took off like a rocket ship. And now, man, is leading the nation in veteran-owned companies, but also in your industry, man. You're a major player, the founder and CEO of Zapp Mortgage. But I love the fact that you saw it as an ability to give back more. If I make more, I can give back more. And I've known some very, very generous people that share your heart, man. Like, I'm making more and it's not for me. The more that I make, the more that I'm able to give away and help and make other people's lives better. And wow, I'm blown away by that, man.
Yeah, it's true. So, we are a Christian-owned business. We're a Christian company. I tell people all the time, that's part of what makes us so great is the belief we have. Everybody that's on our team in the company and we all believe that, we do as much as we can do so we can give more. And, God says the more you give, the more he blesses you. He'll bless you tenfold. He'll bless you tenfold. So the more, it's funny, even at certain times, like a few years ago when we gave away a lot, I've never given away so much money before. And there is a part, because there's the human part of me or the business I say, you got to have belief. You got to have belief. And we did it. And then it was amazing, Jeff. This was in January, we gave away this huge check. And then that quarter, we had the best quarter ever that actually the quarter eclipsed our whole prior year.
Wow.
So I was just like, okay, this is what it's about. So, I knew it was that's what we were about, but this is now on a different scale that we can give. So it's pretty cool.
What got us connected, Anthony, is you and I both trying to raise money for a great charity for the USO, and both of us running the Boston Marathon for Team USO, just so that we can try to give back to an organization that has given a lot, not just to the two of us, but to the military over many, many years. For anybody out there who's not familiar with the USO, if you saw those movies with Bob Hope entertaining those soldiers and sailors, airmen and Marines in World War II, all of that was at the expense and through the hard work of the USO. And they've been doing it for many, many years all over the world.
Yeah, the USO was great. For me, Toby Keith, when he did his tours, those were the best ones for me. I'm a country music guy, and Toby Keith is just like God bless Toby. I mean, he passed away. But those were the best ones because I remember him coming back and, people being out on missions, small unit teams out there, and they don't get back for the main show. Man, he'd have his own private show right there for like 10 or 12 guys, just like
cool.
Behind the Connex, just going at it for them for like 30, 40 minutes. So
that's cool.
Yeah, he was pretty awesome. The USO was a great organization. This was a great time raising money for them, for sure.
Yeah. Super proud of Team USO yesterday. Everybody finished the Boston Marathon, but more importantly, they raised about $160,000 for the USO. And for all of Team USO yesterday, way to go. You guys did a great job raising beyond all of our expectations, raising a lot of money for this great organization.
Yeah, they did great. Everybody persevered through yesterday. Yesterday was a tough day.
Yeah. All right. So now let's go back to the marathon. I love this event. The marathon hooked me when I was a young runner. I didn't start doing marathons at 14 like you, but I found it and I fell in love with it. And what I fell in love with is what the marathon does to you physically and emotionally, and even spiritually before you cross that finish line. You've gone through some hard marathons, but I want to talk about severed ankle, broken patella, broken back, broken neck, and the doctors say you're never going to run again. And now, Anthony, you are many, many marathons after that day. But let's talk about what it takes to be unbeatable and get back out there and start running after this kind of major free fall injuries.
Right. Well, first you got to have, my guardian angels and God saved me on that day, so they had more to do for me. Me running all 6 marathon majors, and this year has been special because it's brought spotlight back to running for me and into some major charities. But to be able to do that, you have to have a mindset of that you're just going to go do that no matter what happens. And to give you a specific story, 2015, I was running the Boston Marathon. At mile 10, I heard this big pop in my right foot, like pop, like right there. And I was like, what is that? So I ran about a couple more 100 meters, it started to really hurt. And so I looked down there and I was like, man, I think I might have broke my foot, but it was mile 10. I'm not going to quit. Mile 10. So I just tightened up because it was swelling up already.
Of walking and running on a broken foot.
Yes, on a broken foot. So I tightened it up as tight as I could get it. But I finished, and that was the year also of rain, and it was just cold and windy. But in my mind, just like what I do, and when I came back from those injuries, nothing's going to stop me from getting to my goals. No matter what that goal is, and these goals are marathons, nothing's going to stop me from crossing that finish line. Unless I get hit by a car, if I can't walk, then I can. But other than that, I'm going to make it to the finish line. One way or another, I'll finish. So, having that mindset, being able to live to a standard that, we were taught in the military, we live to a standard every day, and having the discipline to actually go out and do it. Marathons are hard. Triathlons are hard. And even if you don't want to train, like there was days, so I did Tokyo just a month ago, or a month and a half ago, and then, coming here doing this, and then there's a lot of days when I got back from Tokyo, I didn't want to train, but I was like, I got 2 more coming up. I'm going to go do it. Just having that mindset, and I think people don't know how strong their mind can actually be once you actually get in there and change it and actually never stop.
There is so much wisdom that Anthony's saying right now that everybody listening or watching can learn from. Because let's be honest, life is going to throw some things at you. It hurts. And you have to have the attitude, I will not let anything stop me, just to be able to overcome those obstacles. But when you get over those obstacles, man, it's going to feel like, okay, I don't ever want to do that again. And like you, Anthony, I got up early this morning, put my running shoes back on. My legs were beat up from the marathon yesterday. And I went out and put some miles on those legs again, just to say, I gotta blow out the lactic acid. I got to get back on there, or else I will not, or else I'll take a break too. And I want to get back to running right away. So you have to have the attitude that not only go for it, man.
Oh yeah, go. No, I was going to say yesterday, what you just said yesterday was a perfect example of that, because you had the whole field had a plan going in, and by about mile 4, everybody's plan changed. Everybody's plan changed.
Everybody.
Yeah. Everybody. It didn't matter who you are. You were not doing racing. Where I was talking to a guy that he was like, after 5K, man, I was done. I stopped and had some barbecue. I just jogged because, he just wanted to finish, but he didn't want to get himself too banged up or have a heat injury or anything. So yesterday is something. Life's going to throw stuff at you don't know, and you just got to adjust. You got to just fire and just figure out how to get there.
I talked to countless runners yesterday, and every one of them said, oh my goodness, that was far worse than I planned for. And my time is much slower than I wanted it to be because of the heat.
Yes.
Yesterday threw a curveball at everybody. We were all looking at the weather, and everybody thought, oh, it's going to be perfect running weather. And then about 30 minutes in, the temperatures climbed into the 70s. And even I from South Georgia, or you from Florida, are not quite ready for, mid 70s at the 4 or 5 mile mark into a 26 mile race. So let's just go ahead and get into Boston yesterday, man, because Boston was without a doubt one of the highlights of my life as a runner, but it was also brutal yesterday.
Yeah. First off, congratulations for finishing. You finished the most iconic. For those listening or watching, Boston is the most iconic marathon in the world. This is the 128th running of it. This is one that everybody knows about in the world. So it's also out of the majors, it's the hardest one too. It might be a net downhill, but downhill running pounds your legs, really hurts your legs. And then they have they have these hills between miles 15 and 21 that you have to run up when you're already tired. So Boston is definitely hard. And then you have the added pressure of most marathons. You probably sign up, you walk to the start line, you go, no. Here you have to wake up early, get on a bus. Get on the bus, takes you 45 minutes away. Then you have to wait 2 hours to even start walking towards the start. And then at the start, you wait another 20 minutes just to start. Then you finally get to run. And then you're going straight downhill for a mile. So it's its own special thing.
My watch asked me about 3 times yesterday, it looks like you're already working out. And I was walking to the start line, and I had to tell it, no, I'm not started yet. I haven't started yet. Stop it. I'm not starting the race yet. The starting line is still way up there because of the total amount of runners. But man, I have never seen a crowd of fans and supporters, not even close to the way that race, the people come out to support that race. It's incredible.
It is. Boston, New York are two of the ones, and actually Tokyo had a lot. They weren't as loud, but Boston really is like no other. Like you have the certain towns, and these towns throw like little parties, and there's pretty much somebody cheering for all 26 miles. There's somebody somewhere cheering for almost that whole 26 miles, and it gets loud. Like I had the Open Shock Pros that go over ears, right? I had to just take them down. It was just, I couldn't hear my music. I'd rather, pay attention and have some fun with the fans. So I just had to put them down because it's so loud. You couldn't hear it anyway, even if it was on.
I was running with the same thing and I couldn't listen to my music. And my watch was saying, this is really loud. You might be damaging your hearing right now. And it was all the crowds. When you ran
Yeah.
through those little towns, they were 2 or 3 deep and they were screaming their lungs out at every runner like you were the world's fastest guy or gal on the course. It
Hmm.
was incredible. The crowd, huge props to the whole, all of those little towns along the course running into Boston.
They are. And then you could probably tell everybody how you felt coming onto Boylston Street. So Boylston is the finish. It's the final 600
Yeah.
meters. And you can see the big finish line banner that you come across. And we're talking thousands of people in the 600-meter stretch, like just nonstop bouncing off of
I
the
would best
skyscrapers.
I would guess there's 100,000 people on Boylston Street, just those last 600
Probably.
meters. I would guess there's 100,000
Hmm.
people on the left and right side of the road cheering you on. And literally, they're going crazy for you like you're the number one runner in the world when you're crossing the finish line. It was incredible. Um, Man, you've done Boston more than a few times, but you
Hmm.
have done the Boston Marathon that nobody will ever forget.
I
So,
did.
can we take a few moments and talk about the Boston bombing on
Yeah.
Patriots Day, the marathon where there was a bombing on, towards the finish?
Yeah, that's the day that changed one marathoning forever. It changed the city of Boston. It changed the way they ran
Yeah,
the race. It changed everything. And I was long, so I was there. I was already on my way home. So I was on my way. I was staying outside of Boston at the time. So I was in my car already driving out, and it was weird. So I was driving out to my hotel, and I saw all these. I didn't have back then you didn't run with phones. All you ever says I didn't have
right.
the radio on. I was concentrating, and I was just so mentally done. Anyway, going out, I see all these police siren stuff going this way. I was like, what's going on? I get to the hotel, my phone is lit up. And I hadn't turned on the TV, and I was like, what's going on? Make a phone calls are like, the bombing. And I was like, what bombing? So I turned on the TV, and I was like, I saw what was happening. And my first instinct was, I need to get back there and help. Like,
Yeah, sure.
I need to go back there and help.
Former
But when
PJ
they,
needs to get back there and
yeah,
plug some wounds, right?
I did, yeah. And, I went, I don't wish that I was behind coming up when it happened, but if I'd have been there, I'd like to think that I could have aided in some way, just being in the vicinity, because it was such mayhem. Because you got to remember, as a PJ, we train for mass casualty situations all the time, things like that, and the marathon wasn't prepared for that, because they don't prepare for a mass casualty, something that extraordinary happening at a
Yeah,
running race.
not a trauma event. You're prepared for, heat and,
No,
heart related events, right? Running related
right,
injuries.
not blown off limbs, not sucking
Yeah.
chest wounds, none of that stuff. So couldn't go back in, so then I just sat there, just like everybody else, in shock about what happened. At Marathon Sports, where that one big one up right by the thing, it was funny. I bought my commemorative 2013 shoes at the Marathon Sports like a day before. Like when they were there scoping the place out, they could have been there while I was there, because that's where you went and got these Saucony commemorative shoes that I still have. So yeah, that race I'll never forget. It was sobering, but it was tough. And then the next year coming back, you know, that was tough too, because there's so many
Yeah.
emotions coming back that next year.
Oh man. The the whole town of Boston, really blows out Patriots Day
Hmm.
and the events, the Red Sox ball game and the Boston Marathon. But the way the town bounced back from that. I mean, people all over the world watch live the Boston Marathon because it's got that kind of a following. And after the attacks, everybody in the world heard about it instantly because of the amount of attention on the Boston Marathon. And then after the attacks, the way the town of Boston came back from that, man, it just blows me away. And to this day, I mean, God forbid it ever happens anywhere else, but the town is so much stronger, so much tighter. I saw 50 Boston Strong t-shirts yesterday along the course, and those all came as a result of bouncing back from the bombing.
Yeah, it's the town bounced back. the whole Boston Strong thing. That's, even when I was putting stuff out this year, I still use the hashtag Boston Strong because, that town, when Jeff tells you that town, it just comes together for this marathon. It's a whole city, a major city, shuts down for Patriots Day, shuts down for the Red Sox. And what happens is that Red Sox game lets out, and everybody from Fenway Park is then there to cheer everyone on. And
goes
it's
to
not
the finish line. Yeah.
yeah, they goes to the finish line. And and they go to cheer on. It's the regular Joes. When I say the regular Joe, okay, this is the world's fastest marathon. Everybody here qualified, right? When I say the regular Joes, the people that are around 3:15 and up, that's when Fenway lets out. So it's the bulk of the whole marathon, of the people doing the marathon. So people are just jazzed everywhere. Like it's insane. Even if you're not a runner and you get a chance to just go experience the Boston Marathon from a spectator perspective, it's something to see. Like
it's incredible.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now let's get into the majors, because we're using language right now that most of the listeners have no idea what we're talking about. Tell everybody what the majors are and what makes this such a lofty goal for runners.
Yeah, so the World Marathon Majors, they call them the World Marathon Majors. There's 6 of those races right now. There could be 7 in the next 2 years with Sydney, but the 6 right now are the Tokyo Marathon in March, and then Boston and London in April, and then you have the Berlin Marathon in September, and then you have the Chicago Marathon in October, and then the New York City Marathon in November. Those are comprised of the 6 largest and biggest marathons in the world. And now Abbott is the head sponsor of that, so they call the Abbott Marathon Majors. And so what happens is you get this amazing, cool 6-star medal when you complete all 6 of them. And for marathoners, that's the holy grail of running, being able to do all 6 of them. And, the average time to do it is anywhere from 6 to 10 to 12 years. People wait a long time. And the reason they have to wait is because Boston is the one race that you can only qualify at. And only one. And then you have a lot of people going for the Boston cherry slots already. So those get taken up. And then Abbott has this thing as a draw. If you have 5, you get put in a drawing for that race every year until you pick out. So as you can see, just a game of numbers and waiting. And not everybody is good at fundraising or they may not want to do the fundraising, so they'll just sit there and wait. Plus, with the races being back-to-back, not many people do a Boston-London double or do a Chicago-New York double, because that's 2 weeks instead of 1 week. So if you were to do them all like I'm doing, it's very hard. But the 6 stars, that is every marathoner's dream, is to get that medal on your wall, because it means that you have done them all.
I finished yesterday right behind a lady in front of me who was wearing a South Africa jersey. And then there was a guy right in front of her, looked like a guy from Asia, who, when he crossed the line, he got the medal that you're talking about. Now, why don't you, for everybody who's watching on YouTube, why don't you go ahead and show real close to the camera the Boston Marathon medal? That's it. That's one of the medals that everybody wants to hang on their wall, and everybody wants to see it, for the rest of their life. Any runner knows the moments of sheer joy when you're finally cross the finish line and they put the medal around your neck. I tried to grab one from the volunteer yesterday, and she's like, "Oh, no. We're going to put this around your neck. It's part of the deal. Like, let us put it around your neck." But the guy who finished just a few minutes in front of me, he was walking on cloud 9 because he went off to the left and somebody put the 6 majors medal around his neck. I saw it. It was about as big as a car emblem hanging around his chest right there. And I could tell that guy was on cloud 9 because he had just finished number 6, the Boston Marathon, of the 6 majors for him. And like you said, let's just be honest, many people will never even have the chance to try. The people that do try it usually take 10, 12 years. And I don't know if this number's accurate, but I read recently about 20 to 30 people in the world are able to pull off all 6 of them in 1 year.
That is true. This year, I think there's going to be like 24 of us. or
Okay, so
something like
Anthony
that.
is one of 24 runners in the world that's crazy enough to do Boston yesterday on April 16th and is tonight talking to us
Right.
from a hotel in London. When does the London Marathon kick off?
London starts 7 a.m. on Sunday. So
Okay,
less than
6
5 days.
days
5
later.
days.
Yeah,
Yes.
less than 5 days later, because of the time zone.
Yeah.
But Anthony, yesterday was rough, man. Because of the heat, yesterday took a lot out of me. I have been pounding water by the gallon for the last 12 hours, and I'm still not rehydrated. And as I got on a plane to fly back to Georgia last night, I was thinking about you. Like, I don't know how on earth Anthony is going to pull this off. Not only is he going to be running on, heavy legs, but how do you get rehydrated? So can you talk a little bit about what yesterday felt like for you? Because it was
Yes.
brutal for me, and I've done some really hot races before.
Yeah, yesterday was so I had to make a decision. I had to make a tough decision to just shut it down and cut off because I was starting to cramp in my legs. And if I run through cramps, I've been able to do it before, but you always run the chance of pulling a muscle or doing something very bad.
Yeah.
And I puked a couple times out there, so I knew the heat was starting to get to me. So
Uh-huh.
I knew I had to do this on Sunday, so I just had to adjust fire and make it to the finish line. So when both my legs started cramping, I kept trying to keep up on fluids as much as possible. Like you said, I couldn't keep anything down. So it was a very hard run walk thing for me from about mile 17 into the finish.
Oh
Like
man,
it
you
was
beat me
rough.
by a long shot. Because at about
Um,
mile 13, maybe 14, I've never had this happen to me. I'll hit the wall sometimes mile 17, 18, 20. But about mile 13, both of my calves started saying, if you keep this pace up, you will not finish. And at about mile 13, I had to adjust my pace. I've never had that happen in my life. And I was pounding water, Gatorade, goo packs the whole race. And even still, I was thinking, I may have to end this race on my hands and knees. I know I'm going to cross the finish line, but it might be on my hands and knees because my calves are already saying it's way too hot out here. And here's what I was telling myself: I just wasn't prepared for the heat. So,
you know,
man,
I don't
I
think
don't know
none of us were.
what kind of shape. I don't know what kind of shape my legs would be at in 5 days from now. But the fact that you're already in London, the fact that you survived an international flight to London on legs that just got done with crossing the finish line blows me away. What did you do just to get yourself ready to get over to London?
Yeah, so last night, so we had plans to go to the Fenway Park and meet up with friends and have beers and everything, but because yesterday was so hard, I went and soaked in a hot bath, put on my compression tights, iced my legs. My legs were cramping for like 2 or 3 hours. I was drinking like
Uh,
nasty salts crap to try to get the cramps out and get them done. And
yeah, the
then,
oral rehydration salts.
yeah, oh, yeah, I just wanted them to give me an IV, but they wanted me to do it orally. So anyway, uh, I was taking those, and then it was probably about 9:30 or 10. I was like, oh man, I still need to pack. So then I started packing, and then we were then we were up at 3:30 to get to the airport by 4 to get on the flight to London. So, just stretching as I go
I'm
along, and they feel way better today. So,
Well, good. I'm laughing. I'm sorry to laugh at you, man, but every other runner on the planet after finishing Boston last night at 9:30 at night was already comatose in their bed trying to recover. And you're thinking, oh, I still got to pack for London.
yeah,
Man,
yeah,
there's so many life lessons that running one marathon can teach people, but doing marathon after marathon, the six majors, and doing two of them in less than a 7 day period, it's basically showing that life is going to throw some really hard things your way. It's going to take everything that you got just to get over them. And then when you get over them, don't be surprised if just around the corner is another challenge. And the listener, what they can learn from you, Anthony, is how you get up and face another challenge after you've just given the last one everything that you've got.
It's that's true. What you just said is so great. And I learned you celebrate in the military, we celebrate accomplishments, but when I got in the civilian world, I learned I celebrate an accomplishment, and then the next day, my mind's on to the next. It's kind of like when you see championship basketball teams, the coach on there, hey, we're going to celebrate tonight. What do they say the next day in the parade? All right, let's get going.
Let's start talking about next season.
Start talking about next season. And it's the same for me now. I do something and it's great, and I celebrate for a little bit, but I want to get on to the next thing. I want to be even better. So you just have to make that switch in your mind and just keep pushing.
As I watch you, as I listen to you, the way that you communicated with the rest of Team USO, man, you are a guy that motivates me. And it sounds like a lot of people can learn from you. So here's how I want to end this episode, man. I want to spend a few minutes camping on what it looks like to dream big and to start now and to achieve greatness. I am so happy that you are releasing a book next week. And in fact, I'm going to try to get everybody who's watching this episode to sign up to get your book. And we're going to launch this thing really large for you, man. So let's talk about the race for greatness, man. Where did this thing get its start?
So this got to start when I got out. So like I said, that first quarter, I made a couple $100,000. That first year, I made $748,000. Never made that before in my life. That was through visualization and believing. All right. I had a little thing I had a little number said 728,000 behind a $1 thing of Walmart on my desk when I got out. That's how much I wanted to make. I looked at it every day. But I had to believe. So when I believed, I had faith in God. I had faith in myself. I believed in myself. A lot of people need to believe that it's going to happen. Yeah. And then, Jeff, I had no plan B. I burned the boats.
I love it.
I burned the boats. I just went all into that business. I was like, I'm going to do this. It's going to be big. And you know what? People don't understand. It's taken me 12 years to get where I am today. You're going to see this amazing book come out next week, but that's 12 years of my life I spent getting to the point to where even a publisher would look at me. Like, a publisher didn't even look at me until there was this article written in Inc. magazine last year when we came out about what we do, because we do it a little different in our industry. I read the book Blue Ocean, Red Ocean Strategy, and that's what we did. I took a very red ocean, I made it blue for myself, right? And if people need to realize you have to think big. If you don't think big, you will not get big. And it's funny, some of the people I hang out with now are even leaps above me, and I tell them what we're doing, and they're like, I think you can do better than that. They'll still like, think a little bit bigger.
Wow.
And that's what I tell people now too when I go do speaking events, and they tell me, so I was like, well, let's see if we can elevate what you're thinking about. And that way your mind is focused on this, whatever you're thinking about way up here. And even if you don't get there that first year, whatever, you're going to land somewhere down here. But if down here is what you were focusing on, you're probably going to land somewhere even further down.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been a great ride. Race for Greatness. It stands for relentless, attack, connection, and execution. So relentless, so in my career, I was relentless in doing what I did. Okay. I took action. That's what most people, action and execution, took action. The power of connection in people. It's now with social media and all this other things, people don't realize the power of connection with another human being and making them a radiant fan of yours, no matter what it is. That's huge, right?
Right.
And then the E is just the execution. I see people all the time tell me what they're going to do, and then they don't back it up. In the book, I actually give the template. I give the template, and it could be a service-based business, regular business, on what I did to make $1 million every year, personally, over $1 million. And I've given it out to probably thousands of people over years, and it's actually came up with technology, but over the years, and only one person's ever followed it to a T. And you'll read about Lauren in the book, how much she made in 6 months. But what he did is he followed it to two. And not only that, when he came into the company, he came up to me after a recruiting event. He said, Anthony, I'm going to outwork you. And I was like, what?
Have fun with that, right?
Yeah, good luck. I was like, good luck in my head. But after that, I was like, but you'll read about him. He did it. And now we got some other people doing it right now in the company. And so you can make $1 million. It's this number that's out there in society. But once you learn how to do it, you can do it. You can just replicate it. And all it is discipline. You've got to have the discipline to do the boring stuff. Like Jeff said, running every day. In this, making your calls every day, sending out notes, doing whatever it is. I learned how to be very good at the boring stuff every day, thousands of times a day. And that's how you have to do it. So this book, it's called Race for $1 Million Mastery. And if you're an entrepreneur, even not an entrepreneur, it's going to show you how to do things in your life and get what you want and just live a life by design. Very extraordinary.
Yeah. There are lots of dudes reading or watching right now, listening, who are saying, I didn't come from money. I didn't come from a business-oriented family. And I don't know if I could ever dream as big as Anthony because I don't have that background behind me. And maybe they missed the part of your story that said you didn't come from any of that either. So even their dreams are small because they feel like nobody from where I come from in my walk of life can ever achieve greatness. And your book is telling people, no, there is a blueprint to this. And if you'll follow the blueprint, man, it can be bigger than you can imagine.
1,000%. I grew up getting, the government cheese, beans, and milk delivered to my doorstep. I was the poorest guy in school. Right? I came from nothing. I was enlisted. I went from being enlisted to being an officer, to being retired, to knowing nothing about being a civilian, nothing about sales, nothing about marketing. All I knew is I believed in myself. I knew I could do it. And that's what I bet on. I bet on me. Right? And you don't have to have, coming out of the military, we're indoctrinated into the military. We don't understand this anymore. So I broke those chains. I broke out and I just learned it. Yeah, I worked 16 to 20 hours a day for probably 8 years straight. 8 years straight working on that, except for Sunday. Sunday we take off. But every other day, I was literally working 20 hours a day some weeks because that's what it was going to take for me to get to my goals. So your audience can do it. Don't let anything hold you back.
All right. So this book drops next week. This episode is going to air almost to the week before the book drops. And I want everybody in the audience on April 25th at 7 p.m. to go ahead and be part of your webinar when you launch this book. Because if we can make this launch big enough, this book is going to skyrocket up the charts in Amazon. Is that right?
That is right. If we can get everyone on here listening, if you can just give me 20 minutes of your time, I promise you that it's going to be worth your time. You're going to get a very special price, book launch price on the book, okay? And then, yes, it would be a blessing to me because Amazon will open the gates. If we have enough participation, Amazon will open the gates to everyone. And Jeff's an author, 10 times over what I am. But, so I need all the help we can get. But I think it would be great if your audience would come out, partake. Not only do you get to get the book at a very, very discounted price, you also will get a chance to listen to me a little bit and maybe pick up a nugget or two for something happening in your life.
I'm going to tell everybody at the end of this episode how they can sign up for your webinar, but I'm going to ask everybody right now, and I'll do it again at the end, to go ahead and sign up because, as he said, hint, 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 the price is going to be unbeatable, and that's not a play on words here at the webinar. But if we can make this book launch large, it'll go to #1 on Amazon. And after that, really big things happen for this book. And you got a chance to hear the guy behind the book. So again, mark your calendars. This is 7 p.m. Eastern time in the United States on April 25th. And I'll give you the link on how you can sign up for that webinar in the notes to this episode when we're done. But before I wrap this thing up, man, Anthony, I just want to go back one more time and say to a guy who the doctors looked at you and said, you should never run again, who's now trying to do what few people on the planet will even attempt to do and run all 6 majors in one season. from a guy who was able to start in an industry after retiring from the military with no experience and take a company on a rocket ship ride. Man, you really are one of those unbeatable guys. And Anthony, I have the greatest respect for you. Thank you for taking some time when you could be sleeping in London and being a guest on this episode. We're all going to be cheering you on this Sunday as you cross the finish line and check off number 3 in the World Marathon Majors when you cross the finish line in London on Sunday.
Yeah, Jeff, I appreciate you. Thank you so much, not only for your support, but your podcast is amazing. Your audience has one of the most amazing leaders in this country, if you guys didn't know it, from what he's already done and what he's doing now. So I appreciate you, and I thank you for your support, and good luck to you the rest of the year. And I hope that, the book is a blessing to you, book is a blessing to everyone in your audience that gets it, and everybody can go do unbeatable things and be unbeatable and have an unbeatable mindset for the rest of this year and for the rest of their lives.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. Well, you've heard it from a guy who never should run again, and now 250 marathons later is attempting the World Marathon Majors in one season. From a guy who really shouldn't be successful in business and has launched a career like a rocket ship, and he's put all of that information in a book. I'm going to say it one more time. I'm going to go out and buy Anthony's book, and hint, 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 the price is going to be almost unbeatable. So you don't want to miss his virtual book launch. Again, that launch is on April 25th, 2024. It's at 7 p.m. And we're going to put a link in the notes to this episode on how you can sign up for the webinar. You have to be part of the webinar to get that introductory price, price that you will never beat. And I want you to go ahead and get Anthony's book, Race for Greatness, just because of the content of the book. But I'm not doing this just for a friend. I'm doing this because I believe in Anthony and I believe in the book. I really want to see the Unbeatable audience take this book to number 1 on the Amazon charts. So go ahead and sign up for his virtual book launch on Amazon, April 25th at 7 p.m. And the link is right there in the notes to this episode. If you want to follow Anthony, you've just heard him talk about the World Marathon Majors. He's already completed Tokyo. He's already finished Boston. He will attempt London this week, and then he's still got Berlin, Chicago, and New York in front of him after he's done with London. So maybe you can cheer Anthony on as you tune in to those races. But I also want to say thank you for being the best audience out there. I really agree with what Anthony said. You guys and gals are amazing. And I want to thank you for being so connected to our episodes. Thank you for tuning in week in and week out. And if you found this episode for the first time, you just stumbled across this podcast and you were really, really motivated, fired up by what you heard, why don't you go ahead and subscribe and start following us? We're on YouTube and pretty much all of the podcast platforms out there. So you can follow us on any of those. Or you can also follow us on social media. Just search for @Unbeatable Podcast because we put out regular content all week long. You're also going to find some pretty incredible people to connect with on social media. You'll find people like Joe Walden, who is our fan of the week this week. Joe, thank you for being so connected. You are awesome. And we just wanted to recognize you this week. Finally, if there's a way that I can help you overcome one of those obstacles, I put it together in a video. I've done it in a PDF. If you're struggling right now, if you're getting up tomorrow after just getting over some obstacles and all of a sudden you realize you've got another obstacle in front of your face, I'll send you a PDF for free called The Unbeatable Army Survival Guide. Or I've got a little video that'll just motivate you to keep going when you want to give up. And all you got to do to get it is just go to unbeatablearmy.com. Thank you for being part of this episode today. I hope you have a great day. See you right back here next week. God bless.
These stories of triumph over adversity will help you handle your toughest days in life and become unbeatable.